But specifically, we're going to be talking about dating in your middle ages, like post 40, your 40s and 50s. I've just been seeing, not only in real life, but also on the internet, more and more people in that age group, which is my age group, just saying they're done. More and more people just saying, hey, I'm 47 and I don't think I'm ever going to date again. I'm 55 and I think I'm done. Just seeing a lot of people, maybe they came out of divorces a few years ago, they tried the dating thing, just couldn't find anybody, couldn't get anything, long lasting, anything real, and they're done. Or they're just people who, they've, excuse me, been out on the market for a while and just tired of the dating scene, just over it. Or people who just have come to realize, and I think I might be heading down this path, which is why I wanted to do this video. But I think people who are just realizing that maybe once you hit a certain age, you're just like set in your ways, especially if you haven't dated in a while. It's been almost a decade since I was in like a serious relationship. So like, I think I'm just very set in my ways. You know what I mean? Like, it would be very hard for someone at this age. I'm 45 now. It would be very hard for like someone to come into my life and like acclimate to like how I live my life. I know me, I kind of live a different lifestyle. That makes it harder. But just in general, it's like, I don't know. I felt like when I was younger, I was willing to make that sacrifice. Like when you're in your 20s and your 30s, it's all about meeting somebody, finding love, a family for a lot of people. As I'm getting older, it just feels like, do I even want to make that sacrifice? Do I want to switch up being able to do whatever I want to do whenever I want to do it? For what? I mean, don't get me wrong. Love is a beautiful thing. True love is an amazing thing. And I know that there are aspects of this life I'll never get to experience alone. But I think the older I get, the more at peace I am with that. There was a time when I was younger, I wasn't at peace with it. It's like, oh, you got to find somebody. You got to be with somebody. You need to be in love. Now that I'm in my mid 40s, I'm kind of like, do I? Do I want to give up the freedom to travel wherever I want, go wherever I want? Do I want to give that up? And I'm wondering if more and more people in this age group aren't coming to that realization. I'm wondering if more of us just are like, I'm good now. And I'd be curious for people who might be a generation above me, people in their 60s. Was this a thing 20 years ago for them, or is this a new phenomenon? Like, there's a lot of, I think there's a lot of things happening that are a byproduct of new technologies we have and just the way the world is changing. And I think sometimes it takes, 10, 15 years to see the results. And I'm wondering if some of the things that happened in the 90s or early 2000s, we're seeing the byproduct of it now.
Welcome back to the channel. You see the information on the screen, so you already know what I'm about. So let's get into it. So this particular video is from Timothy Ward. I actually believe I did another one of his videos a while back, but this particular one was sent to me by one of the people that follow me on this channel. So shout out to you, Mia. I appreciate it. And this is my response to that. And I think, she was just concerned about, what does this really mean? How do I feel, like I said, about this particular bit of information? And I do know that about 50% of the people that follow me, maybe more like 40%, are 40 and up. Okay. So definitely this is going to affect a lot of the people that follow me. But I think that the answer, I don't believe it's complicated. I actually believe that the answer is relatively simple. But I think the issue is where you find yourself. Because, see, to me, just the desire to get married. So if you're dealing, like I said, if you're 40 and up or even 39 or something like that, and you're in this space where you're kind of like, okay, do I get married? Do I get in a relationship? Do I live my life, by myself or just chill? Again, it's going to all depend upon what you want, right? I think you have to start there. And some people out here, at that quote unquote, for him, at the big age of 45, they might have not gotten married. Some people still might want to have children. That's a totally different person than someone who got married at 28, had 2 or 3 kids, and then got a divorce. And now, maybe 2 or 3 years later at 45, they find themselves divorced and out here in the world. See, these are first of all, two totally different people. All right. And then you have another group of people that might have never had children, and they might have never, gotten married or whatever, but they just have this desire to travel, or they have desire to build their business and things like that. And the desire to do those things is greater than the desire to have a family. So again, that's a whole nother person. Right. So I think the first thing you have to do is you kind of have to figure out what category you're in. Okay. And so I think we have to start there. The next thing I want to mention, and I've talked about this in a couple of my videos, is health. Right. And health is wealth, as we talk about it. And a lot of people, again, I don't think they really get it in the United States, because we assume that the average person is where we're supposed to be, but it's not. One of the things that I've noticed about people who are like vegetarians, and when I say vegetarians, I mean people that really care about, their health, but they're not like vegetarian, vegan zealots. Because I do find that the zealots generally have problems with those that are like 80, 90% vegetarian. And then they might, eat some meat every blue moon, or, they know that they have to supplement, different things like that, because the vegetables don't quite give them everything that they need. But those types of people, when you meet them, they could be 50 years old, they could be 60 years old, but they act like they're 30. They have boundless energy. They're bouncing off the walls. They're doing things. They're out there having fun with life. And one of the things that I recognize, like, and I've talked about it before, is like with sugar. And sugar is in almost everything in the United States as far as our food is concerned. But sugar is a depressant. It is a depressant. So it actually makes you sad. It makes you want to sit down. It makes you want to watch TV. It really turns you into the couch potato. And one of, the tenets of being a couch potato is you want to be left alone. You don't want your peace disturbed. Is all of this starting to make sense? So when you're dealing with someone who is not quite as healthy, who their body is not quite where it needs to be, that's also going to be something that goes on with them, is that they're not really going to have the patience to deal with another human being, whether it's, a male or female partner or children or anything like that, because they've just got so much toxin in their body that toxin is actually pushing them down and is keeping them from having the desires to actually go live life. Right. And one of the things that I did notice, out at, Christian Singles Connect, when I would run into someone that was even 50 years old, and it was primarily the men, I'm not going to lie about it, but when I would run into a man that's 50 years old and he was full of life, full of energy and things like that, and then I might ask the question, to him, I'm like, would you, at this big age, if you ran into a woman that was like 38 and she had never had children, would you be willing to have maybe one child? And almost every man that was like bouncing around and had a lot of energy was like, heck yeah, we can have 2 or 3. It was never an issue. But when you would run into the guys that were a lot more chill, they might have been sitting in the back drinking a beer or something like that. You ask them the same question and they're like, nah, man, I'm good. And you can see very quickly, that that's a part of it. And see, I think when we talk about these things, we don't break them down into the minutia. Instead, what we do is we love to say it at a high level. And we're always talking about it from an American average. And I'm always encouraging people not to be the average. So on this particular channel, I will talk about all these different levels, but I'm always going to encourage people to be the best that they can be and to live a different type of life than to live the average life. Because again, the average American is sick. The average American is on some kind of a drug. And when I'm talking about like over-the-counter prescription type of drug. The average, American is literally, like I say, on their way to just being a couch potato and not really doing much in their life. Okay, so that's part one. Part two is anything that you're dealing with when it comes to, and like I say, I will live and die on this hill. If you are a person that is a spouse, if you have spouse energy, whether you're male or female, okay, and you know how to pick people that are male or female of spouse energy on the other side, it's going to be very easy for you to get married. You're going to, go in and out of that. And then the relationship is going to kind of work in a different way because you both are going to play your role and it's going to almost seem seamless. Okay. And that, again, is another thing that, again, a lot of people don't talk about, because just because somebody's out here, and even if somebody's been married before, did you really walk in true spouse energy while you were married? Okay. And I try to talk about that because that is the whole thing about being a giver. Okay. And when I'm saying being a giver here, I'm not literally talking about you got to lean over, bend over backwards, for people all of the time. But in an environment, can you basically say that I enjoy doing for another person? That is part of what I enjoy doing. And that's why I think it's so sad that we are in a society where we call people that do those types of things. If you're a man, we call you a simp. And if you're a woman, we call you a pick-me. When really the pick-me simp energy, not maybe 100% max where it's crazy and weird, but having a little bit of that, it literally is a part of the energy of marriage. And those people enjoy giving. They don't always enjoy receiving. And it's really important for you to find someone that is along those lines, right? So that's my big disclaimer, before I get into it. So again, if I'm running into someone and they just ask me this question straight up, they like, yo, Jay, I'm over 40. Should I get married? Okay, so if you're a man, I'm going to go first and then I'll get to the women. If you're a man, my next question to you is going to be, okay, have you had your kids? Do you want kids? Do you want a family? If the guy says, no, I don't want a family, I just really want somebody to kick it with, then I'm going to say, okay, how do you feel about God? Are you 100% sold out to him, or are you just lukewarm, or are you an atheist or something? You don't really care. And if they're like, well, yeah, I love God, I really want to do things his way, I want to be in his will, then I'm going to basically be like, get married. But if they're like, nah, dude, I'm an atheist, I really don't believe in God, man, we all going to turn into ashes, when we die, and I believe that to my heart, and you can never, encourage me to come to Christ, then I'm going to be like, dude, don't get married. I'm like, because at that point, it's nothing in it for you. Because you don't really care about the covenant. You don't care about God's judgment on you. You don't feel any pressure. You don't want children. Okay, so at this point, what else really is in there for you? And it's another reason why I always encourage women to date people that are sold out to God, because it's a different type of pressure that those men feel than just the average atheist, walking down the street. Right. But if I'm a guy and I'm out here, like I say, over 45 or whatever, and I don't want kids and all this other kind of stuff, and I don't believe in God, and I don't give a flip about, anything on the other side, I'd be straight up. I'd be like, no, I ain't getting married. For what? What's in it for me at this point? Because at least at this point, I have control over my money. I have control over my life. Okay. And just being real, I can probably find a girlfriend, to kick it with for 2 or 3 years or whatever, and then drop her and move to somebody else. Okay. And if I'm in decent health, more than likely I'll be able to take care of myself. And then there's no real guarantee that even if I get with a woman, that she's going to stay and take care of me if I do get sick. Okay. And I might have to take care of her because she might get sick. So at this point, I could lean into selfishness because there's really nothing there for me. Now let's get over to the woman's side. I think that, again, for most women, it'll be very similar to the whole concept with men. But I do think with a lot of women, there's still this desire to be locked on to somebody. I think that the men have it as well, but I think it's a little bit stronger in women. Just that desire to lock on and to be, connected, to a man. Now, again, I go back to my statement when I say that, if a woman is a wife and she knows how to pick well, she's going to get married very quickly. And I've talked about this, like I said, multiple times. I even had a conversation with a good friend about it last night. And he was even talking about how somebody in his family has already been married 3 times. And he was like, even if she got divorced from her new husband, she would probably be married again within 4 or 5 years. And this woman is like 50 or and above. So yes, there are some women that just know how to pick out men. They have no problem finding men, and that's their thing. Okay. And so if you're a woman out here and you're over 40, again, I'm gonna say, okay, what is it that you want? If you're looking for a family with children and stuff like that, then I would definitely say you can do it. And remember, one of the things that I've learned about a lot of women is that they have these timelines. And I'm always encouraging women to back away from the timeline because, first of all, the timeline that you have in your head when you wanted something is not biblical. It's not. And there's no place in the Bible where God says you can pick and choose. Even Sarah got in trouble, via God because she was acting like, oh, I'm going to have a kid at 90. And God was like, yeah, you're going to have a kid at 90. Don't tell me when I'm going to put a baby in your belly. Right. And so that was one of the things that all the fighting that we got right now in Israel is because Sarah did not listen to God and thought that she was going to do it her way. So women in these timelines and what you believe about yourself, that is on you. But I'm letting you know that's not biblical. And then when it comes to, even if you say, well, my womb, and I just don't think I can do that to my body, I'm always again saying, what is your money for? Okay. If your money is just to buy you a brand new Mercedes SUV, then that's fine. But you can always find a surrogate in another country or even in this country that will carry a baby for you. And trust me, $50,000 in another country to carry a baby, that is like 2 and 3, 4 years worth of salary for a lot of these people. And that's why a lot of women in other countries have no problem with, birthing a baby for you. Okay. But what I notice is that a lot of women, once they get to 40, they've just kind of made up in their mind that they just don't want to change diapers and that they don't want, at 60 to be concerned about college. They just want to be able to relax and move on into their retirement and have fun for the rest of their life. But the problem is when you do that, again, one of the reasons why a man would get married is family and his family beyond you and him. And so when you remove that, you do remove one of the reasons why he might marry you. The next thing, like I said, is Christianity or Muslim or Jewish or whatever, a deep faith, that somebody has. Evidently on this channel, we talk Christian. But people that have a strong faith, they're not going to want to sin forever, i.e. having sex and different things like that. So they're going to want to marry you. They're just not going to want to be out there like that. And so again, from that perspective, okay, you end up with men who generally are going to want to lock you down. The only other way that I believe that, you will probably find someone is at that point, if you are just their perfect match. You guys get along, everything is swimming. Everything is just perfect, because at that point, a person is not necessarily going to be worried about your age and if both people don't really want to have children and stuff like that, they're still going to want to lock you down. I have a friend, he married his wife I think they just did their 10-year anniversary. I want to say 10-year anniversary. And I think he got married right at 50. Okay. And his wife is a just really sweet woman. I've met her, and all this other kind of stuff. But he got married, at 50. That was his second marriage. But he loved that woman. He absolutely loved her and she loved him. And they're kind of like twins in a way, where they have really good complementary energy, but then the energies that they have that are the same, they want to do the exact same thing. And like I said, I've been in their house and they do a really good job of incorporating both of their personalities and really getting the lifestyle that they want. But they've never had kids. And these two people, they're really not heavy duty religious or anything like that. So why did they get married? Because again, this man and this woman, they found in their mind their perfect person, right? But when you start to remove all of these things, at that point, I think that's when people start to be like, well, is it worth it? And that's why I even have to be realistic. Like I say, I know I talk to Christians, but I'm also trying to always be real to kind of give people, some balance in this. And it's like I said, if I didn't believe in God and I didn't really want to have kids or whatever, like I say, I would have to really think. I'm like, yeah, would I really? I mean, I would still date. I would still go out. I would still, want to find somebody, if nothing else, just for companionship. But I don't know if I would want to get married. And I think that, when you start to look at those things, if that's the answer that you're looking for, okay, which is more of a worldly answer, as we say, I have to kind of agree with, this particular gentleman and some of the people in the comments. Because I did kind of go through the comments of his particular video a little bit, and I saw what some people were saying. However, it's like I've said before, marriage can be a great thing. It can be awesome. And I don't think that we lean into the awesomeness of marriage enough, because I think what's happened for most people is that either, like I said, they're not walking in spouse energy, or they're dating people that are not walking in spouse energy. And what happens is, as you date them, you become frustrated. And it's the frustration that you feel is because the person that you're attracted to, or the people you continue to find, they're not in the energy that will protect you and take care of you. But when you're dating someone and you're hanging out with someone that is in that energy, that has that energy, that's when everything is nice and it's sweet and it's wonderful and you're excited to see them and you want to hang out with them. And so I don't think you can discount that quote unquote good energy. But that's why I'm always encouraging people to take a long look at yourself, because like I said, it's generally either you're not walking in spouse energy or you're attracted to people that are not walking into spouse energy. And like I said, those people should want to do for you. And that's why I laugh, because sometimes I look in the comments, and I've even had like a video that I just did up with Ebony Bliss, and me and her were just talking about, what it takes to be a wife and all this other kind of stuff, and the fact that you have to do wifely duties. And every single time I say that, there's always a woman in the comments that's like, no, you don't, you're going down, destruction. And I know it's just really because that woman has done that and it didn't work out for her. And now she's angry because of the pain she felt by doing quote unquote wifely duties for a man that wasn't her spouse. And so she's thinking, well, now if I get married, then I'll do those things. But what I'm always saying is you got to give a sampling, and you have to give it willingly without putting up a wall, okay, just to see whether or not the other person's going to do the same. But as a woman, if you're out there and you're giving these wifely duties, but then the man is not doing any husbandly duties, then you have to stop dating him. You don't go into courtship, which starts around 90 days, with a man that has shown you that he's not going to do any husbandly duties. And it's the same thing with men with women. It's always funny to me, and I've tried to tell you guys over and over and over again, I have dated several women that I'll get to about day 45, day 60, and I'm like, okay, thank you, it was great dating you, and then I'm moving on. And the woman is kind of looking at me crazy because she's like, well, we didn't really do anything bad. We never had real arguments. Why are you moving on? And, then I'll kind of explain that I did not see her as a wife. She's not acting like a wife. She's not doing anything. But then I'll say, did I cover you? Did I take care of you? Was I paying for dates? Was I doing these other things? And then she'll be like, yeah, it's been one of a really good dating experience to date you, because you'll cover all these things. And I'm not worried and frustrated. And in fact, I feel very relaxed hanging out with you, and it's very peaceful. And I'm like, well, yeah, I did that for you, but you have to do the other side for me. And that's when a lot of women are like, oh. And it's the same thing for women. When you're dating a guy, you have to kind of give him a sampling. And then after that, if he doesn't reciprocate, you have to get out. But what I find is a lot of people, they don't want to get out. They want to stay because they don't want to go from person to person to person. And that's why I'm always saying date multiple people, talk to multiple people. You don't have to just date one person at a time. You can date multiple people, and or even if you don't want to date multiple people, you can still have conversations. A lot of times when men are saying that they have women in a roster, quote unquote, it doesn't necessarily always mean, and I'm not saying that that's a good thing, by the way, when I say that, but it doesn't always mean that they're dating every one of them. They could be dating one of them or dating two of them, but then some of the other ones, they're talking to them on the phone. They're texting them a little bit here and there. Maybe they drop one of them off for 2 weeks or so, and then they come back and they might talk a little bit more to her, stuff like that, to try to get a feel of who these women are. And I've always encouraged women to do the same thing. I'm not saying play men. If you're not interested in a man, let him go. And I've always said the same thing for men. If you're not interested in a woman, let her go. But I don't see a problem talking on the phone with a woman or, going out on a date, as long as you're not kissing the person or whatever, doing something with them to get to know them better. There's nothing really wrong with that. And we have this concept in our society that, if I literally am hanging out with two women or two men at the same time, then there's something wrong with that. But I think part of the problem is we're trying to give our hearts too quickly. And we're not making friends first. And then through the friends, deciding which one will become our person. And that's why I've always kind of encouraged people, if they can, to try to find environments where you can just kind of come and chill and not necessarily trying to hurry up and find somebody really quick. That's why, honestly, I was against speed dating for such a long time, even though I'm about, to do more of it with like the Pop the Balloon event and different things like that. And by the way, with the Pop the Balloon, we're going to be doing that for most of 2025. So again, if you have not gotten your information, the information is down there in the link. And what you want to do with the Pop the Balloon is when you send it in, make sure you're giving me your largest city that you're close to. So like I said, when I look through and I see, 20 people from DC or 20 people from Baltimore or 20 people from Philadelphia or 20 or 30 people from New York City or, LA or whatever, that's when I am going to schedule a Pop the Balloon for that region. Now, we are going to do Atlanta first, because I'm here in Atlanta and I think I have a little bit more pull in Atlanta, for right now to get the ball rolling. But that does not mean that I won't get to your area. So you want to make sure that you go ahead and send that stuff in. And then I'm always going to reach out to you, when I think we have enough people in that area. And that way you can opt out maybe if you found somebody in that time. But anyway, yeah, I definitely thought this was interesting. I think, again, it just depends upon where you at. And I've kind of said it over and over again, so I'm not going to go any more into it. But anyway, please like, please subscribe, and I will see you all in the very next video.